Whoa. Leg day. So, I'm back home. I've been on the road for a couple of weeks. It was interesting, it was exciting. It was all the things. It was all the reasons I love traveling and teaching and being a part of a broader woodworking community. But it was also tiring, exhausting, some may say. More dramatic folk than I, but I am not that dramatic. It takes a lot out of you to travel, be out of your creative space consistently, put creative energy behind things like developing a class, developing a student's project that's not your own. While it may not take the same level of intensity creatively, it still tasks your brain with creating something from nothing, which can be draining. And so, I don't feel like doing anything today. So, here's the deal. Here's what I propose. Here's what I think. I think today we talk about the value of nothing because it's a thing we don't talk about. Not creatively, not as small business owners, not as full-time employees somewhere with a hobby, a side hustle. We don't value space enough. At least in the American culture, we value the grind. And look, it's a thing I value too. The dedication to bettering yourself, I think, is super valuable. But when we just jump into the next piece, the next project, the next creative thing, and we don't take time to recuperate creatively, we can lose the ability to sit with an idea, to give a thing time to develop. And this is the hard balance of being a small business owner. I have a furniture business to run. I've made a choice to dedicate myself to making 52 YouTube videos this year. It's jam-packed, man. And as creative people, whether professional or amateur, I think the value of nothingness is hugely underrated. Now, I've talked about my space before, my creative space, this space in which to bring new things into the world. And I've talked about it with a great deal of fondness because I think it's weird and quirky and interesting and it's kind of alive with a creative energy that I really appreciate. But that's only because of the nothingness that we've spent time investing in this space. And what I mean by that is there are things about this space that have nothing to do with making money, that have nothing to do with being efficient, that are just there because we feel as though they should exist. And that's the kind of nothingness I'm talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to be meditation. It can be creative energy without direction. The door that I made for this shop, there was no reason to make that door outside of the fact that I thought walking into this space through a gray slab plywood door every day would be unfortunate. The tool wall that Larissa created has no real function. Sure, the structure has a function in that it hides the sink out of camera view, really, and it gives us more wall space on which to hang things. But the patterned plywood that she created on there, completely useless. It is nothing more than a creative exercise because it makes the space more interesting. It brought her joy. It was a creative release that I think matters. Look at some of the things on my tool wall, right? I have a carved face. I have a handle for a saw. There's no reason for any of these things. It's just giving yourself space to not think about the next project and not always be 3 steps ahead, but to just be present. And this is a thing I talk about often when I'm making an object for a client. I do my best to be present with it so that I can make proper decisions about the object as I'm making it, rather than always thinking about 7 steps ahead or 2 projects ahead. In order to make the best thing that I can make, I think there is a certain level of spending time with it, doing nothing with it, and just simply observing it. Now, I've made the argument before that simplicity is the hardest thing to nail. You can do over-exaggerated, you can do gaudy, you can do loud, but to do something elegantly and simply is often, in my experience and belief, the right answer. This is not complicated. This is a piece of ebony that's been inlaid into the top with a slight hook and round on the bottom. It feels nice on the fingers. It's got a light curvature to it, and it's understated on the front of this cabinet. In my process, the thing I see first in my brain tends to be a little too loud. It tends to be the right direction, but it tends to be a little much. And so I need to spend time paring the ideas back to their basic components and figuring out how to implement that in a simplistic, elegant way. And that's where these ideas come from. That's why this idea of doing nothing is so important to me in my process, because it allows me time to consider why the idea I see in my head isn't exactly right and allowing it to come into full clarity. Without that time, it just is incredibly difficult to refine the idea in its totality. Now look, the practice of nothing doesn't have to be another creative practice. It doesn't have to be making things. It can be simply being. For example, I go to the gym 4 days a week. I do my best to give myself the space and time to walk to and from the gym. It's about a 20-minute walk, because that allows me the space to breathe. Get in a mindset, 1, to go have a good workout, but 2, on the way back, to appreciate the fact that I get to make things for a living, that I get to take it all in, and by the time I get back home, I'm in a proper mindset to work. But if I'm constantly hustling, if I'm driving to and from the gym, if I'm thinking about work and shooting off emails while I'm walking to the gym, which admittedly sometimes I do because I'm not perfect either, it seems to put me in a space of crunch time and get things done and go and never have the space to think about what video I want to make this week. Think about what could be useful for you guys. Think about the decisions I need to make on a cabinet and allow ideas the space and time to develop. So it could just be as simple as going for a walk outside. Could be drawing in a notepad. Whatever it is that allows you the space to reset so that you are not creatively drained by the time you get to the next project. I think that's important. This is exactly why I do those little tiny projects between big projects. And I haven't done one in a while because I've been working on this bloody cabinet for so long. But you've seen me do these things, these 1-day projects, these 3-day projects, these 1-week projects. It's a thing I picked up from my old teacher, Ferrazzutti, who would make these veneered boxes in between large commissions, because if you just go from one thing to a next, to a next, to a next, you just get burnt out. And speaking of Ferrazzutti, now, if you know anything about me at all, you know that I can't be centered in frame because I'm not that good at YouTube. If you know anything about me at all, you know that I value supporting other artists when you can, if you can, and using and being amongst objects that bring you joy, that you find beautiful, that have some function to them. And this is a perfect example of that. This is a squaring stick. Ferrazzutti makes these. This allows you to check from corner to corner of different objects, lock it in place, bang, check corner to corner, make sure it's square. Now, can I do this with a tape measure? Absolutely I can. Do I most often do it with a tape measure? Absolutely I do. But the times that I can employ a squaring stick, and the fact that I can purchase them from somebody that I know and respect and consider a mentor and a friend, why wouldn't I get that? Now, you may be asking, don't I see one in the cabinet right there? Yeah, dog, call me a lush. What are you gonna do? I already owned one, but clearly they're different sizes. They are 4 different objects. Using this one to square up tiny boxes is a joy and a delight, and I've wanted a longer one for a while because this one obviously has its limitations. So I got a longer one, and this will allow me to check things up to whatever this length is. I have no idea. Doesn't matter because the actual numbers don't matter. It only matters that the numbers are identical. Squaring sticks, they're beautiful, they're wonderful. If you want one, go visit Ferrazzutti's website. Maybe I'll leave a link down below if I'm feeling feisty about it. There it is. Brings me joy. Now, I've said this video is about nothing. That had nothing to do with anything we're talking about because that's the joy of doing nothing. Sometimes you just hang. Sometimes you hang with the internet because we're woodworkers and we have no real friends in real life. But I digress. So, in the name of nothingness, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clean the shop. Because for me, knowing myself, knowing how I function, just organizing and cleaning and being in the space is enough to get those juices flowing. It's like a muscle memory thing. When you've been out of the gym for a while and you just go back to the gym and you go lightweight, high rep, but you just physically go through those motions again to get the muscles activated, that puts me in a better position to lift heavy next time. I look at my workout regimen and my creative regimen very similarly. It's about making sure you provide the time to be present in those moments moments, and some days are going to be better lifts than others. Some days you're going to lift the heavy weights and it's going to feel good and it's going to feel light and you're just going to be like, wow, I can't believe I got 6 reps out of that. And then other days you go in feeling okay, and as soon as you start moving the weight around, you realize you're tired. And so those days, and you just clean the shop instead and hope that sparks something in your brain. I should practice speaking in the first person. I hope that it sparks something in my brain so that when I'm ready to create again, I have some momentum going forward. But there's only one way to find out. So I'm going to go do that. And there is some very exciting news coming up very soon. A lot of things are going on simultaneously right now, but I've got some new merch coming out very, very soon, which I am genuinely excited about, and I think you guys will be too. And then I've got some projects coming up in the next couple of months that are going to be super dope. So I'm going to go get back to work. Friends, whether you're in the shop cleaning, whether you're out walking around the streets of Philadelphia trying to clear your head, whether you're going to the gym, or whether you're knee deep in the hustle of a new project, I hope you give yourselves a little bit of space to recoup creatively. And I'm going to go do the same. So until next week, get in there, go make a thing, and enjoy the process. Cheers.